When Why Takes Over, from the 9 Modes by the Mercer Journal. The leak is stopped. The machine is running again. The outage has ended. Most people are ready to move on. Then someone asks, okay, but what actually caused it? The room changes. Not dramatically, not all at once, but something shifts. A few people glance at each other. Someone shrugs. Another begins explaining. The problem was solved. So why are we still talking about it? Most people recognize this moment. A deadline has been met, a customer has been helped, a crisis has passed. The immediate problem is gone, yet someone remains unsatisfied, not because the solution failed, because the explanation is incomplete. The question keeps returning. Why? Why did it happen? Why did that solution work? Why did the process fail? Why did the prediction miss? Why did the customer leave? The urgency may be over. The curiosity remains. This pattern appears often enough that it deserves attention. In the previous episode, we looked at conversations that organize around movement. A pipe is leaking, a project is behind schedule, a decision must be made. The guiding question was then, what works right now? That organization solves a real problem. Action cannot always wait for complete understanding. But another problem appears once the immediate pressure is gone. How do we avoid being surprised again? A temporary fix may restore power. It does not explain the outage. A workaround may save the project. It does not explain the failure. A successful outcome answers one question, another remains. Why? This is where a different organizational pull often emerges. Consider a familiar exchange. One person says, "It's working now." Another replies, "Yes, but why wasn't it working before?" Neither statement is unreasonable. Neither participant is necessarily resisting the other. Yet they are not trying to organize the conversation around the same objective. One is seeking closure, the other is seeking explanation. One is ready to move forward, the other is still examining the mechanism. This difference creates more friction than people often realize. The person focused on action may experience the other as slow. The person focused on explanation may experience the other as careless. One says, "You're overthinking it." The other replies, "You're guessing." The disagreement appears personal. Often it is structural. The participants are attempting to organize the conversation around different priorities. The question is not who is right. The question is what problem each participant is trying to solve. The problem analytical mode solves is straightforward. Understanding creates predictability. When people understand causes, they can anticipate consequences. When they understand mechanisms, they can diagnose failures. When they understand why something works, they become less dependent on luck. A child repeatedly asks why. An engineer traces a fault back through a system. A scientist tests explanations rather than outcomes. An accountant follows discrepancies until the source is identified. The pattern appears in different forms, but the objective remains recognizable. The conversation is trying to establish causal understanding, not simply what happened, but why did it happen? Not simply what works, but why does it work? As this organization strengthens, the conversation begins valuing certain things more heavily. Consistency, mechanism, evidence, justification, logical connection. A claim is not accepted simply because it worked once. The question becomes whether it can be explained, whether it follows, whether it makes sense. The 9 modes framework refers to this recurring organization as analytical mode. Its guiding question is, show me the logic. Like pragmatic mode, it is not a personality type. It is not a measure of intelligence. It is not a description of a person. It is a recurring way that participants attempt to organize a conversation. The same individual may be highly analytical in one discussion and highly pragmatic in the next. The organization changes. Their participation changes with it. Once recognized, analytical mode becomes difficult to miss. The mechanic tracing an intermittent fault, the researcher examining conflicting results, the child asking one more question, the manager trying to understand why a process keeps breaking. Each is pulling toward explanation, toward mechanism, toward causality, toward understanding. This can feel slow. Sometimes it is slow. But the purpose is not delay. The purpose is reliability. Pragmatic mode asks, what will move us forward now? Analytical mode asks, what will keep us from ending up here again? Both solve real problems. Action without understanding becomes fragile. Understanding without action becomes stagnant. The tension between them is often not personal. It is the result of different organizational priorities pulling on the same conversation. And not every conversation is trying to explain a mechanism. Some are trying to organize something larger than explanation itself. The next mode begins there. The Mercer Journal is an independent, reader-supported platform. You can back our work at ko-fi.com/WEMercer. That's ko-fi.com/WEMERCER. And thanks for listening.